Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our webinar. We are thrilled to share how Mississippi University for Women chose the right student portal and mobile app. Jumping right in, I welcome our esteemed speakers for the webinar. Aaron Brooks, Director of IT at Mississippi University for Women. Jarod Bonino, Director of Product Management at Unified. Kyle Stevens, Product Manager at Unified. And Christopher Uthe, Chief Product Officer at BlackBeltHelp. I would now like to hand over the platform to Jarod to begin this webinar. Jarod, over to you.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Awesome. Sorry about that. My phone decided it would hijack my microphone connection instead of my headphones. So thanks to everyone for joining. I just was echoing Shristi's comments that we're really excited that all of you have decided to dial in. We know your time's important. And we just really appreciate that you decided to spend the next hour with us, where we'll be talking a little bit about Unified. We'll be introducing one of our technology partners in terms of the Mississippi University for Women. And doing a few live demonstrations for you. But before we dive into all that fun stuff, we wanted to allow you to put a few faces with the names and voices you'll be hearing today. So let's start with the star of the show, who is Aaron Brooks. If you don't mind, just doing a quick intro, and we'll go down the list.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aaron Brooks. I've been at the W now for about 6 years. I've been in higher ed for about 25 years, worked in Aleutian Colleague, Aleutian Banner, and also Genzabar environments. Got a few miles under me, and I'm happy, a happy customer with my Unified partners.
Thanks, Aaron. It's not. I'm used to being the most likely to be on a radio show voice, but I think Aaron's got me beat there. So your soothing voice, I think, will be a welcome change of pace for our attendees today. I'm Jarod Bonino. I am the Director of Product Management at Unified. I am physically located in Charleston, South Carolina. I've been with Unified for about 7 months now. Prior to my time at Unified, I spent about 16 years with a company called BlackBeltHelp based in Charleston, where we built fundraising software for higher ed institutions. Primary product being a product called Razor's Edge. So I had lots of good experience with the higher ed vertical as a whole. But I've been learning a ton in the last 7 months, thanks to team members like Kyle, about how what we do can really empower schools to improve student engagement and student success. And we're excited to bring you one of those success stories today. Kyle?
All right, thanks, Jarod. Yeah, so Kyle Stevens, product manager here with Unified, been here over 14 years in different capacities, as Jarod mentioned, working alongside him to improve and enhance the Engage product. So I think I'll showcase some stuff here later in the session, but until then, Chris, would you like to go?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Kyle. My name is Chris Uthe, and I am the Chief Product Officer at BlackBeltHelp, one of the sister companies to Unified. And we'll get into the technology that Unified uses of ours and how that's integrated as we go through. But I'm physically located in South Dakota, and I've spent the last 20 years in the higher ed industry, everything from working on campus at a school to SIS and ERP vendors, and most recently student engagement and AI companies such as BlackBeltHelp.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Chris has, I think, one of the most exciting jobs amongst our technology partners internal here at Unified. So he works a lot with AI. He'll be showing us some of the new hotness as it relates to some AI chatbot capabilities a little bit later. But just know that even though his title technically says BlackBeltHelp, he's a part of the Unified family. The way we're organized behind the scenes is not something we try to complicate matters. We consider our customers' relationships with us as a collective group. So just think of us as from different departments at the same company. So real quick, we'll spend a little bit of time, as I mentioned, doing a couple overviews just to give you some context. Who's Unified? Who is MUW? We'll then kind of shift gears. I'll start to ask Aaron a couple questions. We'll take a time out and give you a quick tour of the MUW portal itself, so you can kind of orient yourself around what the students at that university experience as they log in on a daily basis. We'll talk to Aaron a lot about his motivation and about what results he's seen since they've onboarded the student engagement portal and what future plans they have to maybe dive in even deeper. And then we'll hand to Chris for maybe one of those opportunities where we may look to partner deeper with MUW in terms of providing an artificial intelligence experience via chat and voice bot. So Chris will guide us through a little tour there. Then we'll open it up for question and answer before closing out the session. As Shristi mentioned, please do feel free to engage with that Q&A throughout the session. I'll ask Kyle, Chris, my colleagues to keep an eye on it as I'm sharing my screen. I'll do the same as they're sharing their screens, and we'll try to get to your questions in a timely manner if we can. So first, we'll get through some of the boring stuff. If you're not familiar with Unified, we are an organization that's been around since the early 2000s, so just over 20 years now. We've been operating as a technology partner for higher ed institutions. We were founded in conjunction with a grant from Columbia University and with partnership from 14 other universities of all shapes and sizes. And our goal was and continues to be to provide affordable technology solutions for higher ed institutions that complement their mission critical systems. So our goal isn't necessarily to replace your entire tech stack, but to provide you with affordable options that solve needs, with our primary use case being student engagement and student portal technology. We do have over 150 customers across the globe. Those customers have a number of students, so our user count adds up to well over 1 million total users. Our operations are primarily in Gurgaon, India, but we are headquartered in Miami. And as you can see from those of us on this call, we've got representation across the US, including Charleston for myself, Ohio for Kyle, and South Dakota for Chris, as well as a number of other states that we're not highlighting today. So I mentioned we do provide an application called Unified Engage, which is a student portal. You'll see that right at the center of this diagram here. That is one of several solutions that we provide for our technology partners. We offer an identity service called Unified Verify. We offer an admission tool called Unified Admit, an SIS management tool, which is primarily utilized in our international organizations today, called Unified Manage, and then Unified AI Chatbot that Chris is going to introduce us to a little bit later, that we used to refer to as Yoda. I think we've since graduated Yoda, and he's become a slightly different identified character. We just need to get the slide updated, but the point being, we kind of offer a wide spectrum from authentication services through generative AI capabilities that we're going to introduce you to some pieces of today. I'm going to ask Aaron to give us a quick overview about Mississippi University for Women.
Thanks, Jarod. So yeah, the W, as we call ourselves, is located in Columbus, Mississippi, small regional school, east central part of the state, right up against the Alabama state line. We do get quite a few students from the Alabama state. We have around 2,200 or so full-time students, typically in the fall. We just joined the NCAA Division III. Our men's golf team just won the championship last week. We were founded in 1884 as a women's school, but in 1982, we started accepting men into the college. So we have been on a journey at trying to get our name changed so it would be more inclusive. We tried that earlier this year and had a little bit of a civil war between the alumni. So we had to back off that and put a pause on it and see if we can get our marketing right. But yeah, small university and very, very historical university as well. A lot of our buildings are on the registry due to the fact that it was the Women's Institute back in 1884.
That's awesome. Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, you're sounding like I can totally sympathize with your name change attempts. In technology, we often say there's only really two things hard in building software. One is naming things, and two is counting things. So I can totally relate to your pain points in terms of, hey, we want a different name, we want something to sound more inclusive, but it's really difficult to come to a conclusion with consensus when you have such a broad spectrum of stakeholders and personalities. So if we want to crowdsource it with the group here today, just let us know. We'll throw up a poll and we'll get your name taken care of in the next hour.
I think I want to keep it.
So Aaron, yeah. So this is the part where we're going to dive a little bit into the relationship itself and sort of Aaron's experiences. So I do want to highlight, as we prepped for this, we obviously practiced talking through what questions do we want to put Aaron on the spot for. But these are, Aaron's a real customer. Aaron is going to speak to you about his actual experiences. We welcome transparency. We welcome feedback. We welcome criticism. So I think part of what has made our relationship with our technology partners and school partners successful is that we like to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I'm just gonna double down and tell Aaron to be transparent, be open with this audience, and really what we're looking for is a solid human connection. And hopefully it'll help some of you on this call if you're wondering, hey, what's it like to work with Unified, or what is it that motivated MUW or the W to work with Unified over the last 5 to 10 years, give you some insights into what that's like. And so really, Aaron, where I want to start is, the W is operating, as you mentioned, well before you engaged with Unified. What is it about the W that convinced you that it was time for you guys to invest in a student portal?
Yeah, so let me preface that by saying, first of all, that I came in late on the project. The director that was here prior left sort of mid-flight of Unified being stood up. So a lot of what I'm about to say is from hearsay of the experiences that the college was having prior to my getting here. A number of third-party systems were being purchased in silos across departments. Students remembering what URL to go to get to those students were an issue. The help desk was having a deluge of calls as to how do I get to such system, as well as the user access management of those systems, because the students, as well as the faculty and staff, had different usernames and passwords for each of those students. So really needing one place for students, faculty, and staff to log into, to interface with all of our third-party programs, as well as being able to access our Banner ERP was one of the main reasons. But it also allowed all of the constituencies of the university to have sort of an extent of what was available to them. A lot of students didn't even know some of these systems existed for student orgs, for one. So yeah, the availability, the accessibility, and the management of the access for the users were the primary reasons.
No, I love that. And I appreciate the context, Aaron. That's a good call out that in your case, you were missing some of the upfront context, which I think in some ways didn't have you set up for success in an ideal way. But I think that's part of what we'll drill into here in a bit is how were we able to assist with that, or how were your colleagues within the W able to help give you some context that helped us sort of pick up without delaying the project indefinitely or even significantly. So I look forward to diving into some details there. And what you're describing, I think, is a pretty common scenario we see with a lot of our customers, which is as they focus on modernization and student-centric modern experiences, they start to accumulate a lot of IT systems, a lot of different tools. A lot of universities want to go what we call best in breed, which means I want the best SIS tool for my school, and I want the best admission tool for my school. And those may not be offered by the same vendor. Oh, and by the way, I want the best student success tool, and I want the best LMS tool. And again, you're choosing sort of in silos to some extent. I don't mean that as necessarily a bad thing. In some cases, you want to optimize each function. So one of the things we really like to talk about with Unified Engage is that it serves as sort of a nice centralized hub for your students where they don't necessarily have to remember all these different systems. You can use the IT you want to use, and we pull it all together in a nice centralized portal experience where they can first log in here, and if they need to dive deeper into one of those systems, then they can click a button and log right in. But that's not an uncommon scenario where you quickly start to realize, oh man, I'm going to have to tell my students that they need to log into 10 different things just to have a complete experience. And what we try to do is change that paradigm a bit and say, no, just log into the portal and we've got you from there. Before we dive deeper, we are going to put the audience on the spot a couple times throughout this presentation with some poll questions. And I think we've reached the point where we'd like to ask our first poll question. So I'm going to ask Shristi and the team behind the scenes, if you can toss that up. There it is. Great. So we're curious, for those of you that have a student portal, Are you facing any current challenges with that portal? And if you don't have a portal, you've got an option there for, hey, we're not yet using a student portal. I think we've worked with institutions that come from a full background of, we're using something homegrown that we built ourselves, and we really want out of the business of building our own portal. We want to focus on educating students, and our mission really isn't to build software, but to encourage student success. Or we've been using a separate tool, it's just not working for us. Or you know what, we're kind of in that mode where we just have a page that has a bunch of links on it to help remind students what they need to access for what, but there isn't really this centralization or single unified, no pun intended, experience for our students that we are interested in delivering. So feel free to choose. We don't have a portal if that's the boat you're in now. And before I dive deeper into these soul searching questions for Aaron, we wanted to take a minute, and I'm going to ask Kyle to take over the screen share and just give you a quick walkthrough of the W's portal itself. So we've got a test account login. Don't worry, none of the grades or GPAs that you're going to see as we kind of walk through the product are real. But Kyle's just going to take a minute and highlight how the W has made decisions to organize their portal. So it's an important concept. We provide the tools that allow institutions like the W to provide student experiences. So a lot of what you see, credit goes to Aaron. I think it looks great. I think they've done a really good job with the tools we provided to build an intuitive experience. Kyle's just going to walk through it and highlight some of the pieces that we see in a lot of our partner engagements.
All right, thanks, Jarod. Perfect. Yeah, so as everyone can see, I've logged in behind the scenes and I landed on this student dashboard. So the way that it's set up at the W today is that, they have an employee dashboard, right? And so based on the type of user that you are defined in the Active Directory, you can land on either the employee or the student dashboard, and we can even rank, which one's the more important. So when we land here, this content is targeted towards the students. They have the single sign-ons available here, easy access to their account summary coming from Banner up in the top, a list of the previously registered terms, so they can toggle between the historic and the current. And then we have our Connect tool. It's one of the 7 delivery channels we have for messages within Engage. And it's a bit more of kind of a social feed versus a kind of an inbox or an email looking inbox. So these are a few items that are on this student dashboard. And then we have our left navigation here. This is, again, role-based access controlled. So based on the type of user that you are, we can hide or show certain features. We have a lot of the different integrated applets here. So if I look at financial aid, if I go to a previous term, I can see any of the requirements that I had not yet satisfied, as well as the awards and credit or debits and credits version of the account summary. You can see everything involved in each semester. So we have like 16 different banner applets that we can add. Some of them, most of them are focused on the students. Some of those are also focused on, faculty or staff, like pay stub or vacation leave, things like that. And then we also have different applets that, can just help the student experience. So maybe it's getting around campus, getting directions to the different buildings. Perhaps it's viewing the YouTube channel for the W, seeing events, even bringing in news. So we have a lot of, we have like 85 to 90 applets. A lot of those go against, the LMS, the SIS, bringing in your email and calendars. But a lot of those go against other student services for things like the maps, laundry, different social feeds, and things like that. So that's a super quick overview. Jarod, you want me to go any deeper than that, or is that at least a good flavor?
No, I think you're hitting on a lot of good concepts that I just want to double down on, right? So we are guilty a lot of times of talking about this as a student portal. But I think Kyle mentioned, in reality, it's bigger than that. So the W is a great example of a school that targets the experience for their users. It's not one size fits all. Kyle has a test account that models a student experience. If he logged in as a faculty member, or in some cases we have individuals that are both students and faculty, you'd see a slightly different experience. They've designed a faculty homepage or dashboard page that has a different look and feel, access to different systems, different things featured at the top, really catering to what would a faculty member want to see here as opposed to a student. And what you're seeing here is, what do we think the students want to see? So again, we partnered with Aaron and his team on providing this experience as part of the rollout, but they actively manage this, and this is their, creative work and experience. If you want to, does your user, Kyle, have studio access?
Yes.
So just we won't change anything on you, I promise, Aaron. But I just want to highlight for the audience, because I keep talking about, really we provide the canvas. Aaron and his team are doing the real magic here. The fact that it's a 3-column layout is a decision that Aaron's team made. It could have easily been one large column, one small column, or just all one big column. So the flexibility is there to do any and all of that. The fact that he's got the Connect applet that Kyle highlighted right there at the top on the right, again, that was totally their decision. They could have had it on a separate page. We have some organizations that prefer to just see the single sign-on links that you're seeing on the left and some basic account information. That's all flexible, and you control that visual experience. I tend to like the view here. It does lend itself well using those 3 smaller width columns, as Kyle showed a second ago. It's a mobile responsive web application. So if students want to access this on their laptops or desktops, they can. It looks great. If they want to access it on a mobile device, that also looks good. We're not going to demo it for you guys today in the spirit of time, but it's worth noting that the Engage portal does come with a companion native web application as well. So we have some institutions that choose to just use the web app, and they tell their students to bookmark the page if they want to pull it up on their mobile device. We have other schools that go all in, and they have a my.w app in the iOS and Android app stores. We support either model, and that's part of our base subscription offering, is that if you want a native mobile application, we provide that as part of the experience as well. Last thing I'll mention, Kyle, if you want to, you touched on the apps available. Can you just show the app manager real quick? So again, just doubling down, Aaron and his team kind of own the decision. We're not just going to dump all 112 or however many we're up to now applets on Aaron and say, good luck, try to put all these on your page. We're just going to put them in your face. That's not the model that we thought was the best administrative experience. So the model we've adopted is we make our applets available in this, what we call an app store. In reality, these aren't monetized apps. You don't have to pay for them, but you can pick and choose which ones you intend to use on the pages within your portal. So they're not in your face if you're not going to use them. So what we do is we allow you to be really diligent, depending on which ERP system you're using. So in the case of Aaron, his team's using Banner behind the scenes. So you'll see they have a number of those Banner applets that have already been added. They're not using the Register Classes applet, but they are using, the majority of others. They're not using the GPA calculator, lead balance. So you can really customize the experience based on which integrated tools are you using behind the scenes, as well as what experience are you trying to provide. Again, we aren't trying to eliminate Banner as a tool that Aaron's school is using, but we are trying to reduce the number of times that his students have to go visit Banner directly on a daily basis. We want to make it really easy. If we can give students a view of their courses and their grades, give them the information they need on a day-to-day basis, and then that's what we're trying to do with these integrations. It's not about eliminating Banner as an SIS system. It's about complementing it in a way that's really student-friendly. And as Kyle's showing, there's a whole slew of other applets available, including custom applets. So if you have some needs that we haven't identified as larger market deliverables, we can work with you. Or if you have a development team internal to your school, they can leverage some of the IDE tools that we provide, as Kyle's showing, to really deliver a custom experience that's really tailored to your institution, and using the tools that you guys are already using. So it's by design a very flexible tool that allows you to manifest a number of different student and faculty experiences within the context of this authenticated portal, which again, we sometimes trick ourselves into thinking it's a student portal, when in reality we have organizations using it for students, for faculty, And we have some exciting roadmap deliverables that we think are going to open the door for alumni and prospects as well. And again, the difference for us is how is the identity managed? And then how do we deliver that experience to those users? So thanks, Kyle, for running through that. I think that was really great. But hopefully that gives you some overview of, as Aaron talks about his portal experience, you can at least have a mental model for what that is and how the W is using the tools that we provide. All right, so Aaron, so back to putting you on the couch. More questions about Unified. Again, be brutally honest, but how did, I know as somebody coming in sort of not from the onset, as somebody inheriting this Unified project, how did you feel the partnership with Unified was during the implementation phase, at least the pieces that you got to be a part of?
Yeah, sure. So when I came in, we were maybe 4 to 5 weeks out from going live. So I had a lot of catch up to do on top of the fact that I was just getting into a banner environment. I had a lot of catch up to do with this particular project as well. I think there were 3 projects in flight that were sort of dropped in my lap. Our CSR or CSM, I can't remember. I think it was a CSR, Renee, understood the predicament that I was in. And, we had of course, our weekly calls. The communication channels were wide open. She stayed in touch with me. She got me some training. She lined me up with some training, assigned me a technical support rep. They got me caught up on studio and, really just, quick, but in a very methodical way, got me caught up with what the system does, what the features were that we could, get rolling for the go live, and then setting me on a path to really get it, rolled out to the rest of the campus. So the communication was excellent. The training was good. I just had a superb relationship with Renee, and it was a great rollout. It was a great rollout. We got it done on time. So even with me coming late and the director departing from the project, we were still on time.
That's so great to hear. I love even just preparing for this. It made me feel really happy to be a part of an organization that you had such a good experience with. I do want to give a little bit of credit to you and your team. I think one of the things, and in fact, one of the working titles we had for this session just had to do with the fact that the W really thought of the launch of their student portal as, in a student-centric way. And what I mean by that is, you can keep me honest, Aaron, but I don't think everything Kyle just showed was present on day one. I think you guys really focused on a minimal experience that at least introduced the concept of a portal to students. And as we talked through it, the terms land and expand came to mind. So, it can be tempting to say, hey, I have Unified's attention. Let's throw everything in there. Go ahead and activate all 112 apps and show me, let's build pages for all of them, and let's just do everything, and we'll launch it to the students, and they'll figure out how to use it. But you guys didn't take that approach. You thought of it very much as how can we get the students used to interacting with the portal as a centralized hub for accessing the resources they need, and then how can we phase in the usage of additional features and capabilities that the portal supports over time. And I just think that was a really mature way to think about it, and a great way to help ensure that the timelines were met. So just great bi-directional partnership through and through, I think.
Yep, I agree.
Cool. So so enough about the portal itself. I'm curious, what improvements have you noticed for your students since the rollout of the Engage portal?
So there's been a number. I mean, for one, we've decreased the calls coming into the help desk. When it comes to onboarding our students, our faculty and staff, the Engage portal plays an integral role in getting them onboarded. Once they get in the system, it's intuitive enough for them to usually figure out where to go. And our as we've looked at the analytics that you all provide, the usage has definitely skyrocketed. The daily logins and the bad user logins have really diminished, right, over time. And we don't have as many students that are lost from their systems, right? Students that are managing student organizations, they know where to go. Students that are helping out and working in our career center, they know where to go. It's just it's made life easy for the students. And once we added the separate dashboards, because when we first rolled out, we only had the one landing page for everyone. But once we added the dashboards, it became much more usable for our faculty and our staff. They didn't have to wade through all of the apps that the students use, right? So they had direct access to the tools that they use on a daily basis. And it is, you know, just talking with those across campus, it has made lives easier, but it is also in IT, it has made our lives a whole lot easier, just because those aren't the calls that we're answering anymore.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's easy as service providers, and I mean that from both Unified's perspective and from the W's perspective, right? You're our customer, but your students are your customer. And sometimes it's easy to get, you know, hyper-focused on call volume and how much do we need to staff this and what can we do? I love that you're thinking about that also through the lens of the student. I know the bar is really high when I'm using business tools. We use Jira as an example behind the scenes for ticket management. And it's like, sometimes you see something and you're like, am I really going to call their customer support over this? So as much as you hate getting, you know, 100 calls about password resets or confusion about how do I access the system, I can guarantee that that call volume on your side is 100 calls you didn't want to field. It's also a 100 separate student experiences that they rather would not have had to engage with. So it's just, when you think about win-win opportunities, you know, giving students the information and faculty the information they need at their fingertips in an intuitive way, that they know how to use it and how to retrieve it when they need it, I think really benefits both sides. And that's kind of where we're focused, right? I love that you're not even, you know, you didn't think of it like we launched the portal, our job is done here. You know, you mentioned analytics, you mentioned digging in and making sure our students actually using it. Are they actually getting what they need from it? Or is it just another piece of IT that's sitting on a shelf going unused? We think of our you know, new capabilities and features in a similar manner. It's one thing to create them. It's another thing to make sure that they're actually being used and hitting the mark in terms of helping who they're intended to help.
And I will just add, we do a technology survey from our department every year.
Oh,
and
okay.
You know, we rank all of our systems or whatnot. And I will say that Portal has steadily progressed since we started the survey. So students are expressing their appreciation for it.
Oh, that's so cool to hear. Yeah, and that's huge. And that's today I learned in none of our preps. I don't think this is the first time you brought that up. So that's a welcome surprise to hear that you're seeing, you know, the portal not only be an easy tool to administer and a good experience to implement, but also really resonating in terms of the user experience for your students. So I know we touched on some of these. Kyle highlighted that you guys are making use of, you know, the social feed that we call the Connect post area where students can, you know, like and comment and do various things. But you know, I don't want to make any assumptions based on the portal you've helped design. Just from your perspective, what do you think are some of your favorite features within that Engage portal itself?
I would say the dashboards is probably my number one. The fact that we can have separate landing pages, you know, using our Active Directory groups and Active Directory security, which makes it so much easier because you can now just do the security basically in one place and not have to manage that in multiple places, right? So yeah, being able to front our various constituencies with what they need and not having them wade through, you know, all the various pieces or whatnot. Also, the banner integration, you know, being able to use the applets from Banner so that, yeah, our students aren't having to get into self-service, you know, to see a bunch of things, whether it's they just want a quick shot of their grades for the term. We just posted our grades and yeah, they can see them right there on their dashboard without having to log into Banner, go to, you know, navigate to self-service. It saves them a bunch of clicks, saves them a bunch of time. Same thing for our employees, you know, if they want to see their you know, what their paycheck was, you know, on payday, just log into the portal. It's right there with the applet. So the easy access using those applets, and then the opportunity, because right now we're only using the Connect tool for communication. We had a number of mailing lists that were running around campus. And of course, we know students don't check email, and faculty and staff barely do as well. I have a number of them with 1,500 unread emails in their inbox.
Oh, yeah.
So we, using Connect to really get, important messages out as well as events. And our hopes is to really dig in the next year on expanding the communication aspect of Engage. But having that communication tool has really helped us a lot.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and that's a great point. One thing we didn't touch on, there is a pretty robust messaging service built into the portal that allows organizations not only to post to that Connect feed, but also take advantage of email. I tend to agree with Aaron in the sentiment of like emails today, there's a pretty low signal to noise ratio in inboxes, mine included, that leads to, it's really hard to cut through that noise and get the attention of your students when you want it. So, email is one of the channels, but certainly not, in many cases, the most effective. The messaging function offers SMS, push notifications for organizations that are using the native mobile apps, as well as some in-app experiences and light boxes. So yeah, look forward to partnering with you on how we can improve the communication strategy for the W, utilizing some of those functions that you have access to do today, but just haven't operationalized. I also love that two of the experiences you called out there, Aaron, are what I would think of as personalized experiences. And what I mean is, it's not a generic, hey, log in here and go find what you need. What you're saying is, I have these Active Directory groups that represent different groupings of people, of constituents from my university. And one thing that's really cool is I can give them a fundamentally different login experience. So you log in and the page you hit, what are you given? You're taking advantage of that already. That's something that we're having to coach several schools into. They still think of the landing page as a universal thing. Let me put some stuff that appeals to students here. Let me put some stuff that might appeal to faculty a little bit over there. And they don't think of, the opportunity and the fact that you can actually segment your users and give them different experiences. And that kind of leads to that banner experience as well. So the cool thing about those banner applets is they're obviously not showing students everybody's grades. It's not a grade book that's just public. It's a super specific piece of data being ported that's relevant to them. So the fact that, some of your favorite features are some of the things that make this an individualized experience that's really targeted towards certain students, depending on the context of that student, I think is a really great call out, and something that I think, a lot of institutions that think, oh, we have SharePoint, we have a document repository, we're good here. And I think what they realize is some of these really personalized experiences are hard to pull off unless you have a product like Unified Engage. I'm going to pause here. I think we have an opportunity for another poll question. You've heard Aaron and I talk a good bit, as well as Kyle. Let's toss up poll question number 2. Awesome. So we're curious, based on what you've seen so far, what you've heard from Aaron and from Kyle and myself, are you interested in learning more about Unified Engage? We obviously didn't have a chance to dive into everything. We just barely scratched the surface on concepts like messaging and the administration of the portal. Aaron's talked a little bit about his Active Directory groups, but we haven't touched on how does Engage grant the right permissions to the right people in the right groups for the right functions that they should have access to. There's a whole ecosystem there we're happy to dive deeper into. But if you're interested in the follow-up session, just let us know on that poll question there. And as you guys wrap up those poll questions, I'm actually going to, one more question for Aaron, actually, before we hop over to Chris for the AI. So Aaron, while everybody wraps up that poll question, lets us know if they want us to follow up for more information. Can you share with the group, we've talked a lot about your experience. I appreciate the kind words. We've talked about, the impact it's had on your students, what some of the key features are that you appreciate the most within the portal. Are there any lessons learned that you can share that if you were if you could go back in time to Aaron from, when you first got introduced to this project with the W, anything that you can share with yourself from back then that says, hey, think about this, or consider this, or don't forget about this. Maybe we can funnel that back to the attendees and this audience and people watching the recording to maybe help out if they're thinking about venturing out on a journey similar to what you guys experienced at the W.
Sure. I think the main lesson to be learned for the university, at least, is that this is not an IT project, but a university strategic project, right? And so what you see with our portal was mainly done, as much as we were trying to bring together the departments and the different offices across campus to one place, the different systems, we actually rolled this out in a silo ourselves, right? Most of the decisions that were made within my office. So a few years ago, I started reaching out to some of the deans, some of the department chairs, or HR or whatnot, to see, how can we use Engage to help those departments, right? So and I couldn't, make all of their wishes happen. I can't make all their dreams come true. But
Sure.
yeah, we embarked on a journey of bringing other constituents to the table to understand that this is not an IT tool. This belongs to the university. I wish that had been done prior to the project getting started. But yeah, we definitely need all hands on deck to make it effective, right, across campus.
Yep.
I think it has improved efficiency, but we're still wanting to make it more effective when it comes to its use across campus. So we're really hoping to dive into the engagement factor and bring more people in.
That's such a good piece of advice, and I love your differentiation of effectiveness and efficiency. I use that like that on a regular basis. What's interesting is kind of the pivot on how I usually think of it is like, how can I become effective at something and then get quicker at it? How can I be efficient at it, right? Like I can effectively play around a golf, but I wouldn't call it very efficient with my current skill set. But to you, what you're saying is we've adopted this tool that's given us such an efficient way to disseminate information and provide, certain information to students. And now it's all about reaching out to other departments and personas within the organization, leaders within the organization, to say, here's a tool that's going to help you do this efficiently. Help us onboard the pieces we need to broaden its effectiveness. I think that's a cool way to think about it.
Right.
Cool. With that, Aaron, I'm going to give you and I's voice a break a bit, and I'm going to turn things over to Christopher Uthe. As a reminder, he is the Chief Product Officer of a partner, or sometimes we call sister company, called BlackBeltHelp. But he's really the brains behind what we call Unified AI, and his team owns and maintains our AI-powered chat and voice bots. So I'm going to turn things over to Chris just to dive a little bit deeper and take us on a little bit of a journey as to what we're thinking for the future here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Jarod. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity. This is another one of those things that the W has the opportunity to look at adding in the future, and look forward to that discussion too. So why a chatbot? Why is it part of Unified's larger ecosystem? Why do we think it's important? And it's all about the core mission of, why Unified Engage exists, but just putting the right information, the right time, and the right place in front of our students, faculty, and staff. And the chatbot is really just an extension of that. Between having a well-organized portal like the W does and having a chatbot that can answer questions sort of on the fly, it really creates an easy way to knock down barriers that students or faculty or staff are having in their day-to-day journeys as part of your educational institution. So what can we answer? We can answer things, everything from sort of what we would call frequently asked questions. So things that are generic, the answer is the same for everybody, all the way through really personalized questions. One of the things that I love that the W does is expose those personalized pieces from Banner in their portal. And we would love to see you do the same thing in the chatbot. We can integrate with your SIS, your CRM, your LMS, and answer questions the same personalized way that you get them in the portal. what do you get with an AI, chat and voice bot, and why do we have voice bot in there as well? What does that mean? A little bit of this is that, yes, the traditional chatbot interface that you see looping on this slide, and we'll jump into a live version of this in just a second, is definitely there for you. But one of the things that I think is amazing is that we also offer the same AI sort of brain behind the chatbot in a voice bot form. So you can ask these same questions through the phone, or you can have craft really unique custom experiences through a voice line to get you into the right place and answer questions and perform actions, leveraging AI to do that. So some of the basics of the chatbot that you're seeing on the screen there, you can see that we've got, your traditional interface. We can navigate either using some chips and things like that we sort of pre-program for some of your most asked questions to get students and faculty and staff moving in the right direction. You can just straight up ask a question. The chatbot supports also voice to text. And then if you look down at the bottom there, we've got a whole host of accessibility features, of course, WCAG compliant, as we would have to be on campus. And then we also support a little over 100 languages directly out of the box. So no matter what language your constituents want to have a chat in, you can do that. As you can see on the slide here, we have the ability to collect survey feedback. We've got CSAT and some other thumbs up, thumbs down, as you can see on the questions. That integration that we talked about on campus applications, and then transfer to a human if required. One of the things that we always put first is student experience. If the student needs to get to a live human to ask that question, we want to get them there as quickly as possible. Our chatbot is not a tool to delay students getting access to a live person if that's what they need. It's just a tool to give them faster answers in a modality that they prefer, which is typing instead of talking. So if you want to hit the next slide, Jarod, some of the key features here: conversational AI and multi-channel support. So again, embed your chatbot on your website, use it on your laptop, desktop, use it on your phone, entirely mobile friendly. Text with the chatbot if you would like, things like that. And then seamlessly integrating with the campus applications, like I mentioned, is probably one of the most important pieces. Allowing you to integrate with, whether it's Banner or your SIS of choice, whether it's Canvas or your LMS of choice, and ask intelligent questions like, what are my grades? How much is my financial aid? Do I have holds on my account? What are they for? Getting actionable information back from the chatbot without having to go find it manually is really what it's all about. We also provide, and we can jump into that too, reports and dashboards for admins. It's important that we look at the way that the bot's being used, just like we were talking about how the W uses those reports and continues to evolve their portal and looks at, how it's being used and what needs to be there. One of the uniquities of the unified AI system is that it comes with an entire team of AI and ML engineers that go through and help optimize your bot regularly. Other software providers want to give you a bot and send you off on your own. And we instead say, hey, we're only going to engage you when we need to ask you about wording or some other things, that come up. But for the most part, we want to try to help keep your bot running in the right direction all on its own, which buys you time and lets you put more time into other areas. If you want to hit the next slide, Jarod. So BlackBeltHelp AI voice chatbot. So what do we answer and what do we integrate with? And we've touched on a little bit of like financial aid and registration and admissions, student accounts, the learning management system we've mentioned, but a huge IT presence as well. Things from how do I connect to Wi-Fi all the way through more complicated questions, automated password resets, tightly integrated with the unified product stack. So all of those things work together really nicely. Veteran student services and more. Realistically, anything that you would like to have answers readily available on, we can do that. So some of the fun aspects of that are, I've seen entire question sets on bios about your mascot, all the way through huge question sets on all the geocaches that are located on one of our college campuses, one of our partners' campuses. So it is limitless and it can be used in a lot of amazing ways. Go ahead. There we go. So integration. So, as we mentioned in the beginning here, we're not out to replace your SIS or your CRM or your LMS or your ITSM system. We want to complement it and put the right data at the right place at the right time. And so we are system agnostic, realistically, working with SISs from Banner and Oracle and Genzabar, LMSs, Canvas, Blackboard, Moodle. And then, of course, into the CRM space with Salesforce and Slate, HubSpot and TargetX, things like that. And then the ITSM system can easily integrate with Zendesk and ServiceNow and Team Dynamics and a bunch of others that aren't listed here to get the right information in your students' hands at the right time. So I think we've got another poll question. Is that accurate, Jarod?
That is correct. I think you're keeping us
So I'll
honest.
set up
Appreciate
for
that,
a
Chris.
quick live demo if we want to launch that poll question. There it is. Great, timely question. Are you facing any challenges with your current AI chatbot? We'll talk a little bit about as we go through the live demo where we're headed, because the AI space is super exciting and super evolving very rapidly. And so, we're based in a sort of a world of curated responses right now, but we're working towards some options that allow uncurated responses through generative AI and some other tools. But realistically, we're an education first company, so we recognize that answers, questions, and data security and management is critical for our customers, making sure that we know where that data is, where it's going, and who owns it and who's getting access to it. So I'll share my screen here for just a really fast, I know we're running a little bit out of time, for just a really fast demo of some of the basics. So here we've got your a generic website with no actual website in it, but the chat bot can be placed anywhere from on top of your unified engaged portal to your public website to any other page that you really want it on. So I'm going to go ahead and open the chat bot. As you can see, we've got some chips here to help guide us. We've got our language selection. I can choose any language that I'd like. And then we've got a few other options. But I can ask some questions that are, generic, meaning that I'll get the same answer for everyone. So what is your school code? I'm a parent applying for the FAFSA, and here's my school code. What are transcripts? And getting my answer. So how I can see and where I can go. And then, specific university things, what are the financial aid office hours? And as you can see here, I even spell things wrong repeatedly, and it still knows what's going on. So the office is open these hours. So beyond the basic generic questions, we also can look into authenticated user questions or integrated questions. And so things like, how much financial aid do I have? And so at this point, they're going to ask us to validate who we are. Now, this is a quick and dirty demo environment where I'm going to use a pretend student to log in. And we're using, 3 pieces of personal data. But in reality, this can be a single sign-on portal. It can come back to Unified's piece. It can come back to Azure, anything like that. So once I validate who I am, it's going to go into, in this case, Banner, and directly pull out and say, hey, your net aid award amount is $154. So again, as a student, I don't have to go anywhere else to get this information. I don't have to go log in anywhere else. It's right here. I can ask as many questions as I want about things that are specific to that. A student that has questions that can't be answered by the bot can also really easily escalate this to a live chat. So they could get help from a live person if they want. In the interest of time, I'll spare us the demo there, but there's a lot of additional options that go with this that sort of put us in a really good place to help a student get the information that they need. So with that, Jarod, I think I'll pass it back to you to get wrapped up.
Sure. No, thanks, Chris. I mean, I think you highlighted it well. I think we think of the chatbot as just another way to interact with similar information. So we think not only from a higher ed and unified perspective, but from an industry perspective, we're seeing AI being used where search engines were used in the past, or where, we're seeing digital assistants being used where search engines or Google results had to be waded through. So I love how Chris summarizes it. It's like, yeah, they could probably find some of this information within the portal, but having that little assistant to where they can just say, hey, I don't know which pages is on, but what do I have any holds in my account? Just giving them a shortcut way to just quickly have their own personal search engine that searches across the same data and delivers a consistent answer. I think it's really cool. I'm also happy to see, Chris, that education for you is finally affordable now with that massive $154 financial aid that you have in the system.
Absolutely. My estimated family contribution was just enough to net me that. So
that's great. Okay, cool. We have 2 minutes left, and that's good because really I have one more question left for Aaron, and then we'll let you go, I promise. So I think we're on track to not overstay our welcome. But Aaron, I'm going to bring things back to you for just one more question, and that is, I know we asked you what advice you'd give to you 5 years ago, and maybe the answer is similar, but just for the sake of the audience here, is there anything that you would say or encourage them to do or not do, or questions they can ask to help them, right? They're likely attending this webinar because their curiosity is piqued. What can you tell them that might help either get them over the hump or encourage them to dig a little bit deeper to make a decision on what to do next?
I would say it maybe comes off of the last question, and that is, having the right people in the room to help with the decision. That it's actually a strategic decision. It's not just an IT project. So, I would say the more minds, the better. But sometimes you can have too many people around the table, and that gets in the way, right? So yeah, getting the right balance of the right people in the room to help with the decision making and the project itself. And I will say for the value, and nobody asked me to say this, but for the value, I feel like the Unified Engage project or product was good for MUW. There are some cuter systems out there, but considering our size, the money that we have, this just works. It just works for us. And we're not even using it to its full capacity. So that's an awesome thing. We have room to grow.
That's awesome, Aaron. Hey, that covers it. I don't see any Q&A questions that have come through. If you do have them, feel free to submit them. I don't want to hold everybody late, though, so we'll try to follow up through our marketing team. You should be getting an email, the link to this video, so you can share it with colleagues. Thanks to everyone who attended. Thanks to my internal team, Kyle and Chris. Really appreciate you guys presenting. But most importantly, thanks, Aaron, for taking the time to not only present this content today, not only for your kind words, but for rehearsing with us, working with us to get this webinar stood up. We really appreciate it. I think your words were very powerful, and we appreciate everything you had to say today.
Anytime. Thank you all.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Hope everybody has a great day.